Okay. Um, Baba asked the women this riddle in Gujarati. One engine has two compartments. It is traveling to an unseen land. One compartment is empty, and in the other is God. No one could guess the answer, which was Sunamasi. Her coat had two pockets. One was empty, and in the other was her rosary, which she fingered while repeating Baba's name. That pocket was always moving, said Mani. There might have been a squirrel in there. The women were delighted with the riddle. Baba said it so spontaneously, Mani continued, and in Gujarati it rhymes so sparklingly. When Baba was down the hill in the afternoon, Sunamasi took a nap in. I don't know if you want me to read the sidebar, but while on watch, Sunamasi would also sew patches together for the little bag for Mehera, or hold a rosary and repeat Baba's name. So when Baba was down the hill in the afternoon, Sunamasi took a nap in her room, as she did not have to be by the gate. Although she was snoring, if others called her name, she answered immediately. Yes, I heard every word. I'm not sleeping. And she got up immediately. Baba didn't like people resting in the afternoon, Mani noted. I still remember when he came in the afternoon unexpectedly and someone was lying down asleep. Baba put his fingers to his lips and took a handkerchief from his pocket. He twisted one end and so slowly dropped it over their head until the slightest bit lightly touched the tip of their nose. That person, usually Sunamasi, twitched her nose, thinking it was a fly, and made all kinds of faces. We weren't allowed to laugh out loud, so after a while, he did it again. After a third or fourth time, the person got so angry and woke up and found Baba there. There was such laughter. In the early days, Sunamasi had an inquisitive nature. She wanted to know everything that was going on in the ashram, Mani continued. Sorry, I need some water. Baba made her sit outside the compound gate, where she would be totally made to sit outside. Baba made her sit outside the compound gate, by the gate, where she would be totally out of the picture. If she had to go to the toilet some distance away, or if she had to soak a few of her clothes in water, which she would wash later, this gave her the opportunity of walking through the ashram, a chance to see what was happening. Though she was gone for only 5 minutes, Baba arrived just in the exact moment when Masi was not there at her post by the gate. Baba, I was just 2 minutes away, she said. How could Baba come up the hill so fast, she wondered. Unknown caller. Sorry, I didn't know that was going to call me. she wondered. About the Eastern women mandali, Kitty once wrote that there were two things that impressed her about them. First, their implicit obedience to the tiniest details, their intense concentration on Baba, thinking more of him than of themselves, having him as their constant companion and guide throughout the day in their thought, speech, and action. Secondly, their sublime childlike quality in their love and faith in Baba, their master. About her time on Meherabad Hill, Kitty said, I recall that Baba's words that those who concentrate on their lives, who concentrate their lives on him and gradually become identified with him in consciousness, little by little, their humanity is absorbed into his divinity and they become free. At any time of the day, during mealtime, work time, playtime, or perhaps while we were walking in the compound, suddenly Baba would gesture towards one of us with a slight raise of his hand indicating, what are you thinking? Why did he do this? He was working to bring our consciousness away from self, away from the many objects of illusion and duality with its wants and desires, to the one object of himself or God. Apparently, to do this, he needed us to be with him and in his physical presence. I recall a statement of Baba's at the time, love me, obey me, and I will look after your spiritual life. Yes, he was our companion and friend. On 11th September 1938, to celebrate Zoroaster's birthday, Baba agreed to dress as Zoroaster and have his photograph taken. He told Mehera and the women to make something, and Mehera recalled, for 3 or 4 hours we prepared white sari material. Baba wore it and Elizabeth took his photo. Baba is carrying a walking stick in one picture, and in another, Shireen Mai is by his side. He remarked to Elizabeth that this was the way Zoroaster had actually looked, but with a beard. I'm not sure where the sidebar comes in. Pleader, one of the mandali, had been instructed by Meher Baba to stage a play using 36 mushs and Mad in the ashram at Lower Meherabad as actors. By Baba's grace, this seemingly impossible task was accomplished. On 25th September, the play Raja Gopichand was enacted in a professional manner with rented costumes and a floodlight on the stage as a backdrop. Lovers came from Bombay, Pune, Nasik, and Ahmednagar. Lovers from Ahmednagar, Bombay, Nasik, and Pune came for the unique performance. And some of the women, but not Mehera, attended as well. 2 days later, half of the inmates of the Mad and Must ashram were sent back to their homes. Baba indicated that this and the play itself were connected with world conditions. War in Europe was now inevitable. Those who were mad in the eyes of the world were able to enact superbly this ancient kingly drama. While those who were kings in the modern world were acting like madmen. To the women, Baba said, it means war, Russia, France, England against Germany, Italy, and the others. The time is near. The world is in chaos. That is why I have declared publicly in the Meher Baba Journal magazine, I am the avatar, although it had not as yet been published. William Shearer reported in The Rise and the Fall of the Third Reich that on 26 September 1938, Hitler that evening burned his bridges. So it seemed to those of us who listened in amazement to his mad outbursts, shouting, shrieking, the worst paroxysm I have ever seen him in. On 28 September, deep gloom hung over Berlin, Prague, London, and Paris, as well as Black Wednesday dawned. War seemed inevitable. In London, the digging of trenches, the evacuation of school children, the emptying of hospitals continued. In Paris, there was a scramble for choked trains leaving the city, and the motor traffic out of the capital was jammed. There were similar scenes in Western Germany. Baba knew the appeasement of Hitler by the Munich Agreement would not work and told the women, there will be war. Something will happen which will make them all forget their promises. And that too, from quite a fresh point, Poland, Russia. But on October 7th, I have a more important plan for war. This plan has indirectly to do with war and directly to do with you and me. Guess the surprise. They could not and had to wait for Baba to tell them himself. He gave a hint on October 2nd when he said, today I have a fine discussion with Indian experts on the Indian touring car. We can have one bus newly made, new body, new engine, with cushioned seats for 18 and space for luggage. Above all, how much do you think? 6,000 rupees? But this was too much. We must all contribute and prepare now. We must order it now so that it will be ready in February. So now what about the 6,000 rupees? And the petrol? The food was expensive. The food expenses will be the same as here. I'll keep the Mad Ashram and the hospital going, also the magazine. I cannot pay for the petrol. Even so, activities are possible because Elizabeth pays monthly $150. There was a sidebar on the previous page. And according to Elizabeth, Baba dressed as Zoroaster at his mother's request. Mehera disagreed and simply believed that Baba had simply to whim that dress away. I don't know what that means. We're a minute away. Okay, who would like to pick up?
I can pick up. I don't know where we are though. I just got here.
5 days later.
Oh, okay. 5 days later, Baba spoke separately with the men and women Mandali, announcing his plans to leave Meherabad on 15 December for another place before beginning a tour of India. He instructed Sarosh to have a special bus built for the purpose, which was painted blue. The subsequent journey through India from December 1938 through February 1939 was to become known as the Blue Bus Tour. Irene commented about Baba's ever-changing plans. In India, we learned the ways of ashram life, which was wonderful. And yet, at the same time, there were constant tests for all 24 hours. Baba was as loving as ever, but more impersonal and stricter than before in cons. Whenever we thought we understood or got used to some things or ways of living, it was changed. Slowly we learned and accepted the ways of the master. From 15 October, Baba began alternating between the cabin on the hill and his Chahopti in Lower Meherabad, working in seclusion from 7 p.m. until morning. Even though Baba was planning to leave Meherabad in the near future, the maternity hospital began operations on 11 October when Jal brought the first patient, a pregnant, mentally retarded woman. The woman went into labor at 3 a.m. A woman doctor had been employed and given a room on the hill, the library. But she was not conscientious and stayed in bed when called in the middle of the night for the delivery. Fortunately, others were on the hill at the time who had some experience. And scroll down, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Who had some experience in those matters. Baba came to the hospital with Shagan and had Shrinmai, Gaimai, and her sister Gulamasi awakened. Nadine and Mansari were also present, though Mansari had never attended a delivery before. Shrinmai took charge and told Nadine to heat some water. Baba took off his coat and told Mansari not to be afraid, to bring cotton while he lit the stove. They would all deliver the child together. Nadine remained with the patient, telling her to repeat, Baba, 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 while Baba sat outside the ward. Every 5 minutes, he told Mansari, who was waiting with him, I think the child has come. Go and see. By 5 a.m., the baby was born, a little girl. Such an easy birth, Irene remembered. After the baby was born, Baba visited the hospital 5 or 6 times a day to see her. How wonderful for the hospital to start instead of with an ill person, with the birth of a child. And I can read the sidebar.
Yeah,
Let's see. Germany continued its persecution of the Jews, and on 3 October, Baba mentioned the possibility of expanding their group to include Jews. Monty recorded from 3 to 3:40 p.m. We were all in the East Room with Baba and talking about the Jews, a Western colony including Jews, expansion of our groups now. Baba asked us to suggest a place between Europe and India where we could stay silently, quietly for 6 months when he wished in case of war. Nadine was the matron of the hospital, and despite being an international celebrity as the daughter-in-law of Count Leo Tolstoy, she ran the hospital wholeheartedly. Although she did not speak Marathi, she sat with the patients, held their hands, and pointed to her Baba locket, saying, "Baba in you, Baba in me." Because it was difficult to get ready-made medicines, Irene mixed them herself. She had hospital night duty also. Sometimes the hospital was so full, people had to sleep on the floor. I sewed night dresses out of unbleached cotton for the patients and little garments for the babies. The Indians were amazed that we Europeans would nurse them without pay just to serve God and to train ourselves. Sorry,
You
I
lost
lost.
your place. Yeah.
I lost my place. Without pay, just to serve God and to train ourselves in selfless working. We felt lucky to work for Baba's scheme. As soon as we got used to this work, and most probably got attached to it, the hospital was closed. Mansari did not much like her duty in the hospital. I had to serve tea and meals to the patients and to the doctor, who detested me. Baba had given Mansari a large white hat that came down over her eyes, and she wore this even in the hospital, where Baba made fun of her. Baba was there with Jal. I took the tea tray. Baba called me, pointed out the floppy white hat, and had a chuckle. Baba said the patients could sleep on the floor if there were no available beds. The doctor didn't like it. Baba wanted more patients. I was very moody in those days, as I had no time to be with Baba. At least half an hour, I wished to be in his company, but my whole day was spent in the hospital. Moreover, at 5 o'clock every evening, Baba took the women for a walk. When Mansari complained that she never got to see him, Baba told her to give the patients their dinner at 4:30 p.m. and then join him and the others. This too annoyed the doctor. "If the patients get hungry at night, will you get up and give them milk?" she asked Mansari, who replied, "This is Baba's order, and I must obey it." The doctor became even more irritated. "Baba this, Baba that. Who is this Baba?" Mansari pointed out that Meher Baba was the owner of the hospital and the doctor's employer, so she was bound to follow his wishes. He was her master too. Mehera had no connection with the maternity hospital and was only taken to see it once. Baba also took her and the others to see the artist, Helen Dom's work in the tomb. The inner dome paintings were incomplete at the time, but they were taken again later to view the finished work, which included a centerpiece portrait of Baba in the north window. Mehera liked the paintings very much. Baba's expression was so beautiful at first, so lovely, the eyes so melting, full of compassionate love. The eyes were soft and gentle originally, with a lovely, sweet expression. Years later, when the paintings were redone, Baya Pandey, an Ahmednagar artist and photographer, didn't do the face as well. He couldn't recapture the expression. Mehera and the others were impressed not only by Helen's artistic ability. Next page.
Yes.
But also by her fortitude, since she was 60, not a young woman. But Helen had some peculiar ideas. In Switzerland, she had lived almost like a hermit, dressing only in wool kimono-like outfits she made herself. She was not accustomed to living in such close proximity with others as she had to in the ashram. Helen was a friend of Hetty's, who liked spiritual things, Mehera remembered. She had to work at times on scaffolding on her back. She didn't understand a word of English. We had to talk to her through Norina or Irene, who knew German. Helen spoke only German and had difficulty communicating with others in India. This, together with being away from her homeland and the tools of her profession, made her feel quite lonely. When Baba gave her the order to paint his tomb, using the few paints and tools she could obtain, she was overjoyed at the opportunity to resume her art. And the sidebar here is it Love Street? Love Street.
Lamppost. Yeah.
Spring 1990. Said Mani, Baba didn't make it easy experience for Helen Dom to be in India. She wasn't young. She didn't know the language. Later, she was ill, and she didn't get on with Nadine. Others, too, such as Irene, had run-ins with Nadine, whom Irene found to be sanctimonious. Before meeting Baba, Nadine had spent time in Pondicherry with the saint Sri Aurobindo Ghose. Somehow Nadine felt that Irene was not spiritual enough. Nadine's nature, in fact, did not seem to agree with any of the other Westerners, who found it difficult to adjust to some of Nadine's ways. The Easterners, however, found her to be quiet and sweet-natured, and also humble, despite being so well connected socially. One thing was certain: Nadine was exuberant in her love for Baba, who declared, "Nadine would speak for me on Sorry, I lost my place again.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Oh, here, I found it. Nadine would speak for me on top of Mount Everest with only the snow to hear her. Every woman in the ashram besides Nadine had at least one other person who was similar to them in attitude. But Baba had pointed out that these similarities could be weaknesses as well as strengths. It might even lead them to lean on each other instead of on him. Helen, despite having a difficult time, did have some fun at Meherabad. When Dasera was celebrated, the women dressed Chum and Kippy in costumes and flowers. The rabbit that Baba had given to Irene wore an outfit also. But to amuse Baba, Helen herself dressed up like a rabbit.
Ah,
Arnavaz, Nargis, Goher, and Katie were invited to Upper Meherabad during Diwali 1938 and stayed for a week. Baba instructed them not to talk about any outside matter in front of Mehera. Things were very strict then, Katie noted. The visitors were given duties in the hospital. During the day, they made bandages and gowns for the inmates. In the evenings, they went with Baba to the hospital to visit the patients and on his inspection round to make sure that everything was spotless. At night, since there were not enough beds for all in the West Room, they slept upstairs in the dormitory on mattresses on the floor. Katie remembered the firecrackers bought for Diwali. She burnt her finger lighting one. Baba was very annoyed with her over her carelessness. Her parents asked Baba whether Katie might join him on the Blue Bus tour, and Baba said he would consider it. The upcoming Blue Bus tour was the focus of much discussion in the waning months of the year, and the Mandali had already begun making advanced preparations. Baba was on a final picnic with the women to Happy Valley on 5 November, and on that same day, wrote Delia in England, with whom he had been corresponding regularly. And this is from Lord Meher Online, page 1953. The world is in a state of fear and perplexity. No one knows what is going to happen, but wait and see. I know all, the present and future, and nothing can stop the work that I am here to do. Am I not the avatar? The world will know it soon. The first issue of the Meher Baba Journal was published in November with the article by Baba, The Avatar, in which he publicly declared that he was the avatar. That having been said, and with the world conditions being what they were, Baba was ready to go on the road with his now well-trained and self-disciplined troops in what can only be described as a mobile ashram.
ah,
That's a perfect way of putting it, isn't it? A mobile ashram.
yeah. And there's Baba and somebody. Horses?
Is that oh, it's
I don't know who that is.
Looks like Mara to me.
No, I don't think so.
maybe a next reader.
Yeah. So we'll see some more pictures. There's Baba and Mara.
And I guess that's Baba as Zoroaster, right? In
Yeah,
the white.
Baba is Zoroaster, Mara in the kitchen doorway. And then the blue bus in 1938. And now we'll have someone read the blue bus tour. Could you take it over, Eugene?
Sure. Um, Chapter 42, Blue Bus Tour. Before they left on the Blue Bus Tour, Meher Baba sent Chanji south to Hyderabad to rent accommodations in the Shadnagar area, where the Nizam had a palace. But when Chanji arrived, he was told that there had been incidents of plague, and it was inadvisable for Baba and his group to stay there. Chanji informed Baba of this, and on 6 December 1938, Baba dictated the following reply. Dear Chanji, your usual weeping letter to hand. I repeatedly kept on saying to go on the 1st, and you repeatedly kept on arguing, as is your eternal habit. Why go so soon? There is ample time yet. I have much work to finish, etc., etc. Had you gone earlier, you could have written me earlier and given me time to decide. Now, at the 11th hour, you say Shadnagar is affected with plague and that you are looking for other places. Where is the time left to look for places and to write to me and for me to decide? I am leaving on the 8th morning. And do you realize the situation of bringing 20 Uperna, in parentheses, Upper Meherabad women, in parentheses, who don't see men, in a foreign state with no place to settle in for 1 month? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. After Chanji received Baba's letter and a telegram 2 days later, he managed to make alternative arrangements in a saralia, that is the harem side, in a palace garden in Ligampally, another area of Hyderabad. Besides this difficulty, on 19 November, Walu badly burned her legs. When her burns turned septic, the question was raised of whether she should be taken on the tour. But Baba stated emphatically, all of us must start together. Maya must not be allowed to put obstructions in my way. Mara related how Walu happened to get burned. Days before the Blue Bus tour, we were all packing. sort of excited about it. By Baba's cabin, there were a lot of dry grass and leaves, which no one had swept. A few weeks before leaving, Walu decided to clean it up. She had the maids sweep it up, and she also helped. It was piled far from Baba's cabin, and Walu put a match to it. A strong wind was blowing. She turned around for something, and the breeze caught her sari on fire.
Oh,
She suffered severe burns on both legs. Baba was not at all pleased. It was a mess. On the tour, each of the women was allowed to take only a bedding roll with their clothes rolled inside it, and one cloth bag, which contained a spoon, an enamel plate, a cup, a toothbrush, and a bar of soap. Mehera also carried a small bag of Baba's things. But still, the bus was overloaded with all the cooking utensils and foodstuffs on top. It looked like the caravan of gypsies. And the sidebar says, due to wartime rationing, it would not have been possible to purchase foodstuffs along the way or in Hyderabad. The ashram's allotted rations had to be taken from Ahmednagar until new permits were obtained. The bus itself had a wooden partition separating the driver's cabin from the rear section, where Baba and the women were seated. Elizabeth was to be the main driver, with Erich and Kakabaria sitting next to her. Baba sat alone, directly behind Elizabeth, and could communicate with her and the mandali on his alphabet board through a small window-like opening in the partition. Attached to the partition was a small porcelain basin where Baba would wash his hands if he wished. Mostly it was used by Mehera to rinse Baba's glass. Mehera sat directly across the aisle from Baba, with Mani next to her. I would have preferred to sit by the window, but I had to be near Baba as he might want a glass of water or something else. Fitted with 5 rows of leather-covered, padded seats, meant to accommodate 2 by 1 across, the blue bus was built to carry 18 passengers. During most of the journey, however, it carried between 25 and 30. When they started, there were 23 persons inside, 11 Eastern women, 9 Western women, 2 men mandali, and Baba, plus Elizabeth's dog Kippy, who rode on Narina's lap. And the sidebar says, could you scroll up a little bit?
yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Uh,
I'm having a little trouble. Oh, God.
You may have to tap your mouse
Yeah,
on the text and then use the arrows.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you. So the Eastern women were Mera, 31, Mani, 20, Naja, 30, Korshed, 28, Sunamasi, 54, Walu, 38, Mansari, 28, Kaku, 52, Gaimai, 38, Manu, 19, and Meru Jesawala, 17. Oh, she was the youngest. The
Yeah.
Western women were Elizabeth, 42, Narina, 58, Nadine, 54, Hedi, 45, Helen, 60, Irene, 22, Nani, 63, and Rano, 36.
And that was in 1938.
Mm. The women
Yeah.
were crowded into the available seats with small folding stools in the aisle for the younger ones. Later, they rotated with those on seats. Because her legs were oozing fluid from the burns, Walu had to keep them elevated. So she too had to sit in the aisle. Thus, once the bus started, no one could move around. And when they stopped for lunch by the roadside, they had to carry Walu in and out. Baba gave Rano the duty of applying medicine and bandages to Walu's legs, even though Rano hated the sight of blood.
Uh,
Mani said, the blue bus was built to hold 18 women, but usually there were 30 in it. Once someone wondered why the bus hadn't been made bigger. It's better this way, someone quipped. If it had been bigger, Baba would have taken more people. They left Mehrabad Hill at 9 a.m. on Thursday, 8 December, and reached Sholapur that evening, where they stayed in a dak bungalow. During the different tours, they often stayed in such travelers' rest houses maintained by the government, usually in the best part of town, as a convenience for British officials, but which could be used by others. Could you scroll up just a tab? The sidebar is...
I'm trying.
There we go, thanks. If an officer and his party arrived, however, others had to vacate the dak bungalow, even if they had reservations.
Mhm.
Since it was already late, Baba did not want the bus unloaded, as they would be up again the next morning by 4 o'clock. He asked the women if they could manage without all their belongings. Of
Sorry.
course, that's okay. Of course, we couldn't say no to Baba, said Mera. Our backs were tired. from sitting in the bus all day, shaking up and down, and we were cold. We had to lie down that night on tables. But at least Baba gave us good food, nice boiled potatoes for dinner. The sidebar says, the luggage rack on top of the blue bus had been piled so high with luggage that while driving up to the Sholapur Dock bungalow, the luggage on top broke the electric lines or tangled them and shorted the pole fuse.
Oh, no.
Consequently, they had no electric lights in the rest of the house, in the rest house that night. It was too late to have a bath, so they washed, had dinner, and prepared to go to sleep without blankets or bedding on whatever was handy. A few old beds, some tables and chairs. There were 2 large rooms and a square veranda where Elizabeth wanted to sleep because of Kippy. A soiled, discarded carpet was spread for her. Most of the other Westerners stayed together in one room, while the Easterners were in the other. Their ways were different from ours, Mehera explained. Baba and the 2 men slept in the bus. Shall we stop here, Tina?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's 3.
It's 2:57.
Oh, let's stop. Shall we
Okay.
just scroll up to see what that page is? Page number?
Yeah, it's 4:51.
Okay, top of 451 next time.
I'm gonna make a note of it.